Right. So in the previous class, we talked about that in this class we'll come up with data extraction and data synthesis. Okay, now this is again creating problem. Sorry, technical error. Yeah, so not doing the full screen because of this technical error with the laptop machine. But anyway, and now we are talking about this data extraction and data synthesis in our class today. So data extraction, have you guys, like, if you have done this already, or maybe you have been going through this process anyway, because you already have started your literature reviewing and everything. So you have some idea of how this data extraction is going a little bit, and then how you'd like to go more on this. So yeah, so if we think about the data extraction, simply imagine, like, what is your research question? And if you have a research question, or if you have a problem of statement, because excuse me, in some research you will be watching that people do not have research question, or they have some hypothesis, but mostly they are working on the problem statement. It depends from domain to domain. But then if we think of the research problem and what is your research question, and based on that, what you need to find. So a sort of very specific data that you are trying to focus based on your research question. And you can use some sort of table and some sort of form to collect this data. So like a table that you can add in the literature review. This is something we have found out. But then again, some parts might trigger some analysis. But then again, it comes and talks about how can you validate for analyzing, sort of doing this proper extraction. Previously, we have talked about the year of publication and quality of the study and the area and the type of the scope in the research, and what type of study it is, primary study, or it has been done in different contexts like SLR or SMS or some other type of methods if they have utilized, or even the type of publications, so whether this is journal, conference, workshop proceedings, or even book series. So you have to be careful what type of papers you are taking in your research. I really want to make this as a full screen because we'll try to have some conversation. Oh, no, it's going well. That's fantastic. Yeah, so data validity comes again. Pretty much simple collection of data which has various threads for the validity. So on the right side, simple diagram, we are having this conversation right now. And you need to determine and identify the process or the procedure in protocol that you can have this sort of problem that you can identify. Now on the picture on the right side of the diagram, data validity, how can you do these steps? I can give you one example of one of our research, what we have been doing. As you can see on this picture, on the left side, it has some three important factors: sample size limitation, data extraction bias, and bias of classification schema. Okay, sample size limitation. So if you think, so it depends. I mean, some research, again, it depends from domain to domain. some papers or some research might have very little number of samples, or even if you think about the primary studies, so heterogeneity that you can think of. Thinking again, connecting with our research, that what we are doing here is the number of the sample size. Sometimes when you do this survey or even interview or a test with the user, we really want to make sure that we have the minimum number of the participants attending, and then based on that, we try to take those papers in the study or even the result from that paper. But then again, some other things comes again. So choices of variables to be extracted that you can talk with your authors. Publication bias, what we have talked before, that you talk, look on the peer literature or even trying to find the ethical or the most acceptable publications that you think that you can be added. And data extraction bias, a small example with that, what I can give is, it has a couple of them, but anyway, I'm not going to describing all of you anyway. I'm just trying to link up with our research. It has a couple of them: data extraction, bias, quality, unveil data extraction, pilot data extraction, use experts' opinion, right? Yeah, so how can you do this validation on the, so because on the right side, they are telling you of how to overcome it. As you can see, like use experts' opinion, involve more than one researchers. That's even what we do. For example, when we are developing or using some questions for survey, we always take few researchers to validate some questions or even some measurement scaling question that is already available in the research domain. Which type of them we are choosing, we always consult with other researchers so that it makes it more valid. And again, of course, experts' opinion. When you talk about this interview kind of stuff, you have to be careful of what type of data you're trying to gather. If that person is an expert of that test or even that knowledge level that you're trying to get from that topic related to your research question. But then again, a lack of statistical analysis. You can see that if you do not have that much number of interview data, connecting again with, when you talk about the humans, it might be different than what Mika, because Mika is more about the physics with the machines. But when we always deal these machines from the human perspective, we try to gather the humans data. If we have less number of people or participants, that goes more with the qualitative analysis. But with the statistical analysis, you need more number of data. It can be coming up from the human side. If you are taking the human data, it can be coming up from the machine, then several readings of that machines to statistically analyze if this is valid or important. So check for quantitative data. Some people are trying to go, like t-testing. So if you know this, even getting the p-value kind of things in this way, you can measure, or even some other techniques are available like regression analysis, a correlation. This is something that people are using in their research a lot. But then again, bias of classifications, researcher bias, you can think of pilot data analysis and the conduct reliability checks. So in this way, you can try to see the data validity, which is pretty much important when you think about data extraction. So that is one example. It's from a YouTube video, pretty much old, but this guy has a lot of videos, so you can have a look on that. This video is telling extracting data for meta-analysis. It's pretty 8 minutes, 9 minutes video, but I will be sort of scrolling, so skipping some of the things that is not related to off, right? So just starting, yeah.
How to do data extraction for meta-analyses. We're going to do this in 3 steps. The first step, we're just going to talk about how to identify and locate the outcomes that you're interested in. So here's the deal. When you're extracting data from an article for a systematic review or meta-analysis, you need to capture certain pieces of information, design characteristics. You need to define your arms or comparison groups. You need to identify the intervention exposure characteristics. These are sometimes called arms details. Then we need to look at outcomes of interest and how they're measured. And then finally, we need to get the actual results, that is the measures of the outcome variables. Now, obviously in this video, we're interested in the outcomes of interest. That's why they're bolded. And so here's the deal. In almost every article you read, they're going to have a ton of different outcomes. You know, authors don't publish generally on one outcome. You know, why waste all the time? You want to focus on a number. Well, here's the deal. For your purpose, you want to ignore a lot of the outcomes and focus only on the outcomes that are germane or relevant to your evidence analysis question. So a lot of this is developing a skill in what to ignore as well as figuring out what you need to identify. And so here's the thing. Often outcomes feel like they're buried, okay? You're on one side of the article, your outcome is on the other, and you got to find your way through this. So let's talk about how to do that. So for clinical trials, outcomes are generally pretty clearly described in the text and tables of the results section. So if you look down there, you'll find it. And let me show you an example. So let's say that...
Okay, right. This is something I'm skipping because they talk from something from the medical science. Excuse me, let's go to this part and then see an example of another paper.
You're only going to find the outcomes in a narrative. So let's say that what we're interested in for this question is the relationship between the expression of a particular gene, WT1, and relapse of cancer relapse. So here we have an article that by Candoni and colleagues that report tons and tons of different outcomes. We can scroll down, we read through all this, we understand it. Okay, we've got data on individual patients, but nothing yet that really gives us what we need. Well, as we look down here, again, graphs, etc., but it's not until we get further down that we're going to finally, find what we need. And it's in this one paragraph that the authors give us the information that we need to answer our question. You're not going to find it anywhere in any of the tables. You just have to read and dig for it. But if you know what you're looking for, bingo, there it is. And sometimes you'll find the outcomes in both, but they aren't always the same. And let's go back to our question about the relationship between intake of fruit juice and BMI. So here we have an article by Mackies and colleagues, and we go down, let's say we've already read through all this, and we locate our outcomes in way on down in a table, okay? And boom, here we have fruit juice and the relationship between overweight or obesity. So it's not exactly BMI, but let's say that we can use this to answer our question. But here's something important. The outcomes that are reported in the table are going to be slightly different than the outcomes, if you'll notice, that the authors report up in the text. And the reason is what they did in the text is they report the odds ratios, but after adjusting for confounders. Now, when we're gathering data on outcomes, we want the outcomes that have been analyzed after controlling for as many confounders as possible. So what we're interested in isn't really the data that we found in the table, but the data that we found in the narrative. So you have to carefully read both and identify, aha, here are the data that are going to be most helpful to me. Sometimes you find them in both, but always go for the ones that have been adjusted for the different confounders. So before you begin to extract your data, locate exactly what outcome you need and ignore the others. That doesn't mean you don't need to read the article. Certainly read it, get a deeper understanding, but find only what you need for the extraction. And given all the outcomes that are reported and can be reported, the question really comes down to, where is yours?
Yeah, I think that was.
Can you open your data?
Sorry. Okay. Just going to the next slide. Right. Yeah. So now, as you can see, that it was a pretty much what these people have been showing from the medical science domain. But in this way, it's an example that how you can extract data from the papers, what is available. So now, like if you think about your own research, try to have a spreadsheet or a form, which we also informed you the last class to collect your data. You can use your original spreadsheet anyway, and use forms that might help you in collecting all the data, and just giving you some notes that you can do it like creating a smaller subset to improve the data collection. And the outcome, of course, if you're doing this, then this is really helping you to go to the next phase, which is the data synthesis. And now this is connecting with the data synthesis, right? So as the video and the lectures about the data extraction, how can we do it? How we think about this data validity? What should be we need to be think of when you extract the data? But then again, that comes after the data synthesis. Excuse me. Typically, what do we mean by this? A typical definition, it's actually a phase or a stage that you can think in the systematic literature review process, where the data that you have been extracting or you have been able to collect are combined and evaluated. So imagine like the research that you are working in your PhD. Now you have been able to collect the data from the literatures that you have found from these online repositories, and you have been doing this extraction, and then you put them all together. So again, the aim of this extracting and synthesis data is basically helping you to show the output and efforts of various studies, so that you can see that what has been done in most of the studies, and you can sort of show the synthesized version of it, and to identify the key facts, or even if there is any tactics, approaches, or methods, or type of different way that they have used that you can show in your work. Okay, so now I just got this nice example of data synthesis. As you can see, this picture, it's actually GIF format. But when you talk about this, because as you can see on the left and right, so Kylie from Kylie paper and Jessica paper, right? They have come up with two different outputs. our family has one computer, and then they have stated different one, Kylie. But then how you are doing this data synthesis based on writing the statement, take inequality that tells you the answer of these two. That's how you can sort of synthesize your data based on the data extraction that you have found from the papers. So again, data synthesis coming again, it's related to a research question. And of course, you may think of applying different methods to analyze your data. Already, what we have mentioned about quantitative and qualitative analysis, people are also using thematic grouping and automated tools, like it's there. And in data synthesis, it sort of tells you part of it, how to answer your research question by applying those data that you have been able to extract. Of course, you cannot see this in the results. Sometimes you might not be able to see it. But then again, different type of synthesis, how you're doing it depends on your research question. If giving now the video link of those guys were talking today about this medical science, which I skipped actually. These people, when they do this data analysis, I think they have been doing this a lot about this quantitative analysis with larger number of participants. Sometimes they are testing as well. Again, it depends the research question and then how you'd like to proceed. So now, question connecting to this data synthesis and also with the data extraction. What is your opinion about data synthesis? What do you think? What do you like to see? And how are you conducting your data synthesis? And that's a question for you and for us as well. So I'm just recording